Africa, and we come to you this morning with the Pan-African program coming your way from the studios of UBC here on Nile Avenue in the heart of Kampala City in Uganda. We welcome you to this program, and we thank you for your time that you take with us on this program. We are always very eager to hear from you with your feedback about the best that we can do together with you as we improve this program so that it can address issues that concern the people of Africa, those who are living on this beautiful continent of Africa, but also those who are living outside of this continent of Africa. We welcome you, and for the next 1 hour also we shall be with you talking about the issues that concern us as the people of this great, beautiful, mighty continent of Africa. In the studio with Ndugu Agumaho. Now, Ndugu Agumaho is a teacher, not linguistics, but at least a teacher of Swahili. And we're going to look at Swahili in its relevance in the integration of Africa, because some of the problems that we're having on Africa is the way we communicate. How do we talk to people in West Africa? How do we relate with the people from South Africa? And how do we relate East Africa with the people of Northern Africa? Now, those, of course, who are living outside of Africa. So one of the biggest problems that we're having is the language that we can use. No wonder even as we're speaking about issues of Africa, we have to use a language which is completely foreign to all of us. So we have to endure some of those sizes of our being the people on this continent. But do we have a future when it comes to the language? My name is James Mututa, and I'm here to bring you this program now. Ndugu Agumaho, JP, tell people who you are.
Well, thank you, Ndugu Mututa. Our viewers, good morning. My name is John Paul Agumaho. I am a teacher of Kiswahili and a Pan-Africanist. I love Swahili, I love Africa. Yes. I teach at Uganda Matters Secondary School in Namgongo. Yeah. And I'm glad to be here with you, okay, gentle people. Straight to the point. Africa, we have about 2,000 languages that we speak on this continent, and there are countries like Niger that has over 100 languages that are spoken. When we go to Nigeria, they have over 500 languages that are spoken, and the list is like that continues. So, and this part of the problem that Africa has. The other day you were meeting people, you are all from Africa, but you need a translator somewhere to translate for you people on the continent. Do you think Swahili has a future here? Well, thank you so much once again, Ndugu Mututa. The fact is that Swahili in Africa should be the way to go. There are very many reasons as to why we should advocate for the teaching and understanding of Swahili in Africa. In the first place, when we talk about Kiswahili, at one time I was telling people that the moment you go abroad and you tell people I'm coming from Africa, they might say, okay, I'm from Uganda, part of Africa. But of course, when you talk of Africa, people think of the Swahili-speaking continent. So if we are in Africa and we don't advocate for a common language that would at least unite all the Africans and we become one, then we are going nowhere. There are some of the reasons as to why we should emphasize this, actually as why we should see this as the way to go. Mm-hmm. Previously, UNESCO recognized Kiswahili as actually it gave Kiswahili recognized it and gave it a 7th July
to be the International Kiswahili Day. Away from that, African Union recognizes Kiswahili and is one of the languages that is used in the African Union. Even now when you come to East Africa, where we are, where Uganda we belong, Kiswahili in the East African community is the way to go, as people can witness. When we come to Uganda as a country, Kiswahili, actually, in the first place it was made an official language in 1928. In 1928, Kiswahili was made an official language before Uganda's independence. People are not aware about this. But we need to tell them, and they understand, because we come with facts, and we have studied about this, we have researched enough, we know the data. Kiswahili, after that time, it is said that what became dominant is because these Wazungu, they were, of course, they were colonial rulers, they had to propose and support their language, and it was, the communication was basically in English, and that is why, at that time, English had to take on. But later on, after independence, we are happy that the Ugandan government has come up trying, advocating for the development and promotion of Kiswahili in Uganda. Apparently, to cut the story short, because there are a lot of things to talk about, apparently, Kiswahili language is a compulsory subject at lower secondary. It is in the pipeline that this Kiswahili language should be compulsory at primary level, so that our learners can come from primary when they know the language already for purposes of communication.
Now, we have, when you look at Africa as a continent, of course I know that the African Union has tried as much as possible to promote the Kiswahili as a language so that communication on the continent can be eased. But when you look now, look at the Maghreb, the northern part of Africa, I think they are more comfortable speaking Arabic. And to them, Arabic is okay because most of them can understand each other. When you look at the ECOWAS, they are speaking French, and they are very comfortable with French. When you look at the SADC, of course, the Zambia, Malawi, some of the SADC countries actually are speaking Swahili. And of course, the East Africa, where we are now. So, but how will this now permeate, be able to penetrate the countries of the West Africa? Of course, they also have a lot of their languages, but also the northern part of the Maghreb. And of course, the Maghreb is easy because Swahili and the Arabic are very connected.
So, in the first place, what I wish to tell the viewers and all the people is that we should not look at Kiswahili as a regional, only a regional language. Let's say East Africa, North Africa, South Africa, Southern Africa, and other parts of Africa. We should now look at Kiswahili as a unifying language that is trying to unify Africa. So when you talk of ECOWAS, most of those countries speaking French. I talk of maybe SADC and that Maghreb, whereby they are speaking Arabic. We have one common goal as Africa. What I look at, because when you look at the continents like Europe, look at continents like Asia, Europe, and other different continents, those people are always having the specific languages they use in a continent. And their development rate is actually far better than us as Africa. So the moment we now bring in Kiswahili as a common language, it is going to ease and smoothen, I can use that word, smoothen all the processes of development in Africa. And number two, you said ECOWAS are speaking French. But if I can ask, in Africa, how many people speak French in Africa? Now, in Africa, how many people speak Kiswahili? Over 100 million Africans, over. Yes. And that research was just some time back. But apparently, I think if we can redo research, the numbers are actually continuously improving or increasing on the, on the number of Swahili-speaking nations and people in Africa. What does it mean? One time, a South African, this Malema, talked about this issue. He said, we cannot leave a language that is already penetrating in Africa and we pick another language where we need to start afresh.
Exactly.
Why do we say this? Kiswahili has already penetrated in Africa as a continent. Over 100.
Has always been here anyway.
It is there. Many countries are having Swahili. Many universities are starting teaching Swahili. Many countries have started actually making it compulsory. Uganda, as a country, for us, we're actually going at a higher pace, making Swahili everywhere. We are now advocating for it. Our cabinet is studying Swahili, but we are Africans. So I would rather advocate for the promotion of Kiswahili, because I am not a people think that people maybe who are advocating for Swahili, it's their language. My language is not Swahili. But I see it is a way to go that can unite all of us. There is no tribalistic affiliation that is associated with the Kiswahili.
Sure. So, but do you think this could be one way of solving some of our problems as the people of Africa, given, of course, the problems that you are aware of?
Yes. Why? Kiswahili, I think it is very clear for our people to understand that we should not advocate for Swahili only as a language, but there are very many benefits that comes with it. One, if all African countries are speaking the same language, if I can say, I don't want to tell these viewers, or I don't want to make them know maybe where Mtuta comes from and maybe his mother language. But just in case you are in USA, you meet someone who speaks your language, where you come from, how do you feel? You are abroad, somewhere there, very far.
Even if you are not in the US, I went to Mauritania, and the first thing I was thinking about was the language. But soon after we left the airport, the driver who was in the cab greeted us in Kiswahili. And you have no idea how comforting it can be that you have this person who you least expect to speak the language you understand, but you can easily communicate without having to go through an interpreter or to have to ask someone or to gamble about a language. It is so important. And I also believe that, like you are saying, if Africans could speak the same language, it would do these issues of trade we're talking about, the inter-African trade and many other activities will be eased. And part of the problem that we're having in the trade that we are like in the Tower of Babel. One is saying this, another person has to figure around what they could be saying. So even if it were in an ordinary market of the markets we have in Africa, it will be very difficult to conduct such business. But I think, in all fairness, I think if the Swahili can be promoted as the language, as a national language for Africa, actually, then I also believe that a lot of issues could be sorted in terms of communication, in terms of understanding, and in terms, because like you said, unlike other languages, Swahili doesn't come with the tribalistic connotations, that you don't have to be a Swahili, or maybe we no longer have even the bigger population of the Swahili, if they existed. So much so that it is so comforting that if the language is taken on, and language means a lot to people if they can relate and talk. But why do you think it is taking long?
The reason as to why I think the language is taking long to penetrate, there are different issues that would raise and maybe talk about. First of all, maybe ignorance of maybe Africans about the benefits of the language. Because I think if you are told that when you eat balanced diet, you live longer, and then you decide to live balanced diet, then that means that is by your choice. But if you're not told, so you are not aware that balanced diet can make you live longer, I think what someone should do is to create awareness so that you should know that balanced diet can make you live longer. The same applies to Kiswahili. Some Africans have not yet understood, identified the benefits of having one common language. That is why this language has taken some time without penetrating in all African states.
You also you seem to suggest, like many people have said, including President Museveni, of the ideological disorientation. That the problem of Africa is we don't actually have certain common positions on a lot of things that we do. The other time I was looking at after the elections of UK about what Labour believes and what the other parties believe, and you realize that there is some position on something. A lot of them don't think they will go back to the European Union. They are still stuck with the position of Brexit, that they will not go there. But they believe that they will have a kind of relationship within the European Union in terms of trade, in terms of movement. So this is a political belief, a value that most of the political parties have. But maybe on Africa, we seem to have that lack of common positions on a lot of things, because the small countries with their small kings have their own beliefs. And maybe if this language was then taken on, it could ease some of this, that we could have also common beliefs, common values, and common positions on things that affect Africans.
That's true. I really see, I go by your opinion, because I think that is what I talked about some shortly back, that my major point was about that maybe these people, Africans, are not aware about the benefits of Kiswahili. And that is why I really...
Do you think African Union has something to do with it?
African Union, as a body, it has a lot to do with the development of Kiswahili. Because now why is it called African Union? So what would unite us would be the language. So African Union has, I think, to my opinion, I think it would actually continuously advocate for the promotion of Kiswahili in all African states. I really say it has to do a lot towards the development of Kiswahili in Africa.
Yeah, because we're talking about why this language has taken all this long to be taken up.
No.
And I think for Uganda and the region is the deliberate political push that the leaders of this region have committed to pushing this language, and we're moving a bit faster. But of course, as a teacher, you could also have found the reasons as why teaching it, the language in Uganda, for example, may not have been so easy, or the absorption of the language may not have been easy at a local level. Maybe we can use your experience also.
Basing on political arena, political view, I would not say some maybe leaders, they have stopped the promotion of Kiswahili, or they have said they don't want it, because I think if by belonging in Africa definitely you have to have that passion of loving the continent. So on a political view, I think most of the heads of state, they have tried
Yes, that's true.
to promote Kiswahili for purposes of African Union. And then when we come for my personal experience teaching it, because our point, I think it is on why has it delayed to penetrate, to come. When I come to Uganda, where I belong as a citizen, and I'm a teacher of Kiswahili, and I've advocated for it for some good time, I would say, given the experience I've passed through, I would say it has not been easy even to reach where we are. Because right away from, since when Kiswahili was made an official language in Uganda, to be used as a language of communication in different government agencies, how often have we done that? I think even the viewers can, you personally can see. But that will not take us back. The challenges have been there.
Sure.
But we should not rely on challenges now. We should now look at the ways of sorting what has been there to become good. And we are happy that the government has come up with very good initiatives to make sure that Kiswahili is promoted in Uganda. But of course, when we are doing it in Uganda, we are part of Africa.
Exactly.
So as the government of Uganda, Ministry of Education and Sports, as teachers of Kiswahili, we really appreciate Ministry of Education and Sports, together with the National Curriculum Development Center, they have made sure that Kiswahili at Senior 1 and Senior 2 is a compulsory subject, something that has not been easy for quite some good time, since when it was made an official language in Uganda, in our constitution, the second official language. That means it is a language where, but now when you're moving on our streets around there, you see people now talking, when you speak Kiswahili, there are still some, those people who still think that, you're speaking Swahili. Wewe ni nani? Wewe ni mwizi. Like, they think that maybe this man is a thief or what. But of course, that is why I told you that people are doing things not because they want, just because they are not aware. Ignorance is something that you have to make them aware. So as Africa, as Uganda, as a country in Africa, as a part of Africa, we have really tried to advocate for Swahili, and the government has supported it through Ministry of Education and Sports, making it compulsory at Senior 1 and Senior 2, and being examinable. Of course, as people who, as Pan-Africanists and who love Africa, who love the language of Swahili, who love unification of Africa, we would really actually request or even propose to government to continuously make this language start from primary level, so that these people, because the moment you create a bigger population, that is now the unity we are bringing, the friendship, the brotherhood we bring in Africa. In our East African anthem, we have that part where I say, ule undugu, the brotherhood we should create. How shall we create that brotherhood without making it maybe through communication and sharing the common culture? You know, Swahili has the culture that belongs to Africa. Now, when we advocate for Swahili, for African integration, actually for Africa and East African integration, that means we are now creating, we are now actually respecting our African culture. I personally, John Paul Argumao, I am an African. I love Africa. And people might think that because I teach Swahili, that is why I try to advocate for Swahili language. I told people, I have told them several times, me, I am not a born Swahili person. I am a born of another language.
Yes.
But I am advocating for Swahili. Why am I not advocating for my personal language? My mother tongue. People should understand that Swahili is not basically for a certain tribe. It is not basically to remove our mother languages in all African states, but it is a language that is coming to unite all Africans. I think the main point is one, they trust, and everyone knows this, language of Swahili is a unifying language in Africa.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
And of course, I've heard the Russians, for example, they can speak English and many of the European languages. They can speak Germany, they can speak all these other languages, but when you are officially engaging them, you have they have to speak their language. You have seen the Chinese. When you are engaging the Chinese, they know other languages, but they'll speak in Chinese. And many other countries, especially the Asian countries.
Yes.
So, but for Africans, we like speaking other people's languages that we don't have even secrecy. I mean, if I want to backbite this man, if he has a long nose or something like that, then you don't have to do it because you will have no language to communicate with another black person or an African. So I think if we were to have our own, and if we were to promote our own, and if we also have to have things of our own, we need definitely to have a language. And Swahili, like you are saying, is one of those languages that we need to adopt and adopt so fast, so that it can help to unite. If we are talking of common things, common market, common passport, all these things can work when we have a medium of communication. But if someone is speaking Swahili, the other side, another one speaking French, the other side, another one is in the other room speaking whichever language they're speaking, then definitely that is going to take us long. But if we can push, as the people of Africa, that we can have the parliaments of Africa sitting in their capitals and speaking the same language, and that language is common language for all Africa other than English, I think that will have benefited this continent. But true. Do you see that happening in our lifetime?
I think when we keep on the track we are on, when we keep developing and promoting Swahili in Africa, as we are seeing different African states are trying to do, I think it is everyone's prayer that at one time we have a continent that is united. And when you go to Mauritania, when you go to Nigeria, when you go to Egypt, when you go to their parliament, you find in Egypt they're speaking Swahili. You run to South Africa, you see their assembly, their national assembly, the parliament speaking Swahili. I think that would be a very good identity of Africa. Everyone would love Africa. Now we would actually be respected by other continents, because sincerely speaking, if you to count languages that are spoken in Africa now, I don't estimate, I always need facts, but there are many languages in Africa. So as Africans who want unity, who would advocate for unity, really I think it cannot be effective if we don't advocate for one language. You ask me a question, am I seeing this happening in a few time to come, having a common language, African, I don't know whether you called it an African
national language.
National language.
Yes.
My point, I am very clear that if we continue advocating for it, and African member states, the heads of state for those member states, if they keep advocating for Swahili language, I am telling you, in the near future, we shall have a common language in Africa, because it has come up growing. Different countries, when you look at the penetration of Kiswahili right from like few years back, you really see that there is progress. There is progress. That means if we keep at this pace, I really believe that at one time we shall have Kiswahili as a language of Africa when it is spoken in all African member states.
Okay, for example, for Uganda, you may not have all the data about the whole country, but I think you have also interacted with the other teachers of Swahili from other schools in the country, and maybe as teachers you may be having an association of Swahili teachers. What's the progress?
Actually, for us, we are doing better. I would like also to inform the viewers that in Uganda we have a national Kiswahili body, which is called CHAKITAU, Chama cha Kiswahili Taifa Uganda. The progress of Chama cha Kiswahili Taifa Uganda, it is actually...
It sounds like it has other chapters in Tanzania and other...
for other countries,
standalone. Yes,
for other countries, for example, in Tanzania you find they have CHALUFAKITA. In Kenya they have their own national body. For those countries, for them they have the Council for Swahili in each, the government agency, which is a Council for Swahili, which is actually yet to be in Uganda, as the treaty requires us to, as East African Community. But then, as Uganda, as teachers, we have that body that is CHAKITAU. Among the agenda, the programs we have as CHAKITAU Uganda is actually advocating for Swahili in the whole country. Programs including media sensitization, including teaching of Kiswahili in primary schools, secondary schools, including teaching Swahili to private sector, including having the national workshops, national debating competitions, and maybe the national awareness, if the government can trust the association and they actually give it a hand, because you cannot run all those activities when you are individuals as teachers. But I want to say, and I want to prove to tell the viewers and you, Ms. Mtuta, that the progress of Kiswahili in Uganda, CHAKITAU is doing better. We are doing what it all takes to make sure that Kiswahili in Uganda spreads all over the country.
How do you examine the scholars, the learners?
In which way?
I mean, the examination. How do you set? Do you set on the expression? Do you set on the description? How do you do you examine?
Now that there is a change in
the
curriculum, there is a lot of change, and we hope that the new curriculum will now actually help us so much, so that our learners can get the competence in speaking the language. In the previous curriculum, it was basically assessing the knowledge and a few things there. But of course, now in the new curriculum, we are looking at the competence of learners and how we have come up with 2 papers, that is paper 1 and paper 2 at senior 4.
Yeah.
And paper 2 is basically for literature. And you know, if you are able of analyzing literature in a language, then you are better.
Exactly.
You are not like the other person who comes and say, someone who speaks only sound, but I can read, interpret, and analyze. So that means now the progress of Kiswahili in assessment is doing better in the new curriculum.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, because someone can speak, but understanding the language is more than just speaking it.
Yes.
My grandmother was living with the Europeans, and she could speak European language, but sometimes she could not even understand what she's saying, and sometimes herself. But she has heard people speak, so she also say, if you say want, then what are you saying? Want, you say no, want, then she's want. But I think, like you said, if people can understand and do the review and learn wholesomely, then that will help. Because why I was asking that, I was also looking at when you go to China, for example, or to Korea, or to one of those Asian countries, you first learn their language, Germany, and for 1 year, you're learning the language. Then after you learn the language, when you go to class to start studying what you came to study, because some of the instructions and examinations are set in the language. Yeah, so then you need to learn that language first. So that also helps for, someone who is, if he's to learn the language, then he has to learn all the aspects of that language in terms of interpretation and the expression, so that even as you speak it, you definitely have an idea of where you are coming from. But the literature, do we have enough of the written literature to help these learners in the schools now?
Yeah, we have enough. Why? Though at our
apparently our learners are not having exact set books to be assessed at Senior 4.
Yeah.
But Ugandan writers are doing their best. We are writing books, we are writing novellas, novels, and plays so that our learners can access them. But there are many, they are there, only that apparently they are going to assess these learners by picking a certain context in a certain literary work, and then they place it in a paper, and then learners analyze. But the books are there. There are many books. Okay. Ugandan writers have written books. They are in bookshops in Uganda here. They are there. That's what I can say. They are there. The evidence, you can find them in bookshops. If you can go there, you can find the number of books there. Even in schools, the books are there.
Oh, that's good, because then also looking at the library on access of information. If the learners want to learn Swahili, other than having the problem of learning it, the issue of accessibility to literature that can help them learn that. And of course, we are talking about Uganda, but we are looking at other than Tanzania and maybe Kenya, because for them they have developed it further. For the oncoming countries like now Uganda, the Burundi, and Rwanda, I think these are some of the challenges that they are having for the East African community. But I know outside that, the Zambians have even done better, and the other countries down there have done also well, much as they initially were not insisting on having that in the curriculum, but now with the new dispensation, that most of the African countries are insisting on that. So what do you see the future?
The future of Africa, the future of Kiswahili in Africa, as I earlier stated, I see a unified Africa having one language if we keep on the line we are on as African countries in advocating and promoting Swahili in our specific states. And how will this future be reached at? Of course, African countries, different countries now, through their heads of state, starting programs like what East Africa is doing, having national bodies for Swahili, putting Swahili in their curriculum, and then the learners start learning Swahili in different countries, including Kiswahili in media, because media plays a very and a vital role in addressing national issues. So if we can put Swahili in media, then that one would actually make Africa great again, to make Africa great again. And maybe also, because when you talk about putting Swahili in media, people think you just come and start reading news. No.
Yeah.
You can just start up using these, maybe setting up the tutorials, and you start teaching Swahili, for basic Swahili for communication purposes. And maybe later on, after the population has got the basic information and basic skills of speaking Swahili, that is when later on you bring in the news program, whereby away from teaching basic Swahili, you now bring in news, like we do always here at UBC. And maybe if other media houses can do that in Africa at large, as we are looking at Africa, if it is UBC in Uganda speaking Swahili, another TV in Nigeria having the same program, another TV in South Africa having the same program, Tanzania, and they are all in, because the media can do everything in Africa. Actually, not even in Africa. Digital has come, digital era. We have to accept. Development now comes with digital era. So we have to accept and advocate for Swahili through media, digital media, online media, and of course being supported by African heads of state. We should not take this away from this, because the president of an African country can do what it all takes to make the language develop in the country. Sure. As we can see, because I used to like, may his soul rest in eternal peace, His Excellency the President of Tanzania, Magufuli. That man was a Pan-Africanist. I don't know, because there's a how love speaking his own language, whether addressing people from USA, they are going to get people translate for them. This is Africa. Let us speak the language of Africa. So if every every head of state in Africa would advocate for Swahili as His Excellency, the late John Pombe Magufuli did.
Because for him who would speak it, there are many African heads of state who cannot even, let alone understand speaking, Swahili.
But now they can start by learning it. That is why we are because the moment you start, you intend to learn.
You learn.
You learn.
Yeah.
In 1 year, you are giving your speeches in Swahili. So as African head, I should not get a complaint that they don't know. The point should be, let us get interested in learning it.
That is a point of where to start if it comes to mobilization and awareness. Maybe that's where we start from.
Definitely, because I said there shouldn't be a complaint that I do not know Swahili. Do you mean that you have not got people to train you Swahili? If you intend, can I say I want this and I fail unless if I'm stopped? So African heads of state should be the key people to take this language ahead,
the promoters,
for the unification of Africa. Because I can just imagine if His Excellency, the President of Uganda, is in a delegation in the South Africa, His Excellency, the President of South Sudan, the President of Nigeria, Algeria, Morocco, they are all in African delegates, maybe conference by the heads of state, and then they come, everyone is giving a speech in Swahili. Which kind of unity is that? And how can we really, we would love and have that uzalendo, that patriotism in us. We love our nations, we love our Africa as a continent, and we love ourselves as Africans, as our culture, because Swahili pertains the African culture. We should not now start praising other languages, though they are good, but we shouldn't praise them. And fun enough, now in Africa, if you're speaking good English, we should take that person now. When you come for an interview, now we should take that person speaking good English. Now, yes.
Let alone what you can do, but the speaking alone earns you a job.
Speaking alone English can give you a job. But me, according to my view, I would say away from speaking English, there are some other things someone can do. What is your contribution to the company maybe you're going to be employed at? So away from that, we are not saying other languages are not good, but of course, I would love it when someone speaks good Swahili and is taken as given the other skills someone has.
Okay, you can give us your parting shot because our time is up, and we will continue with you next time when we are discussing the issues of languages on the African continent, because this issue of language and language segmentation is still a big issue on this beautiful continent.
Oh, thank you very much, Ndugu Mututa, and I thank you very much for hosting me today. My last words, I always tell people, I am a Pan-Africanist, and I will keep a Pan-Africanist. People will identify me later on. I love Africa, I love Uganda, and I love Swahili. That is why I always tell people, and I have we call it Kaulimbio, the slogan in Swahili, that I advocated for, and I think I'm very sure that it has even spread in all different platforms of Swahili.
Sure.
That is Kiswahili leo, Kiswahili kesho, nyuma haturudi. So in this case, since we are tunasonga, in this case we are in Africa, the program is for Africa, so can we say that Kiswahili leo, Kiswahili kesho, Africa haturudi nyuma. Asanteni.
And I also will wish one time when we come here and we sit on this set and to talk to Africans and who are speaking Swahili, instead of speaking someone's language, if we can speak our own, because why I call it our own is because it is with us and it is us in this language. And it will be very interesting than having to go and speak someone's language. And you know, when we were kids, we were told that if you want to abuse someone, then you have to abuse them in their language for them to be able to understand. But I think we have gone beyond now abusing them.
Yes.
We can also abuse them in our own languages so that they don't even have to understand.
Yeah, that's
Thank
true.
you so much, a viewer who has been with us for all this time. We have been with Ndogo Arigumaho, a Swahili teacher, talking to us about the relevance of Swahili in the African integration. And with one language, this, of course, content will be able to come together faster as we look at other issues of movement, issues of trade, and issues of political federations. It will definitely be a marking point for Africa to move forward. Hakuna hatutarudi nyuma.
Afrika hatuwezi kurudi nyuma. Afrika nyuma haturudi. Kiswahili leo, Kiswahili kesho.
Amina. Thank you so much for being with us, and we wish you the best of the weekend. We'll be back with more programs next week on Friday. This Pan-African program. Please have a beautiful weekend, and thank you for your time.